Palpatine returning has a lot of people curious, but within the current Star Wars canon, there are examples of how he could return. The best place to start with exploring how and why Palpatine is back and perhaps influencing individuals and events goes back to the introduction of Momin and his mask. To make an epic story short, Momin was a Sith who had a very unique relationship with the dark side. He considered himself a creator, an artist. He devoted his energy to the dark side rather than believing the dark side served him and made him more powerful. Momin did things with the Force that no one could. He had the ability to manipulate time, which aided in his endeavor to create some eternal shrine to the dark side. Momin decided to use this weapon on Mustafar, but he was destroyed by the energy created by his own weapon. It obliterated him, but his consciousness was transferred into a mask he wore. There is no real explanation as to how this transference happened. Eventually, this mask was in possession of the Emperor. Palpatine probably learned a lot about the Force from Momin, and highly likely a lot of dark side lore. I would even argue that Sidious probably asked Momin how he contained his consciousness in the mask in order to have some control at the time of his own death. The Emperor gave this mask to Vader as a gift, and eventually Momin creates Vader's fortress on Mustafar, the place he was obliterated at. The mask possesses a Mustafar native slain by Vader, so that the two can work together. Momin promises that his design will allow Vader to pierce the veil of time between life and death, so that he can see Padme again. And since Sith are usually selfish, Momin ends up resurrecting himself, betraying his promise to Vader about Padme, and then Vader ends up killing the resurrected Momin and heads through this doorway portal to find Padme. So why is this important to the rise of Skywalker in the sequel trilogy? Well, the helmet of Darth Vader is in Kylo's possession. We see this in The Force Awakens. Kylo Ren also talks to the mask of Darth Vader, begging for it to show him the darkness again. This mask gave Kylo Ren visions, much like the mask of Momin did for Palpatine and Vader. It has some sort of presence. The similarities are ridiculous. It would be very interesting if somehow in death, part of Palpatine's corruptive influence remained in Vader's helmet and armor. I think the story of Momin gives a lot of weight to this. After all, the presence of his helmet corrupted everybody it was around. We know that the Emperor had visions of the future, so perhaps he chose to act as Momin did, and as he exploded into dark side energy at the end of Return of the Jedi, Palpatine's essence, his consciousness, had engraved itself into what he knew would become an artifact that people would collect, that being Vader's helmet. It also is very similar to a prophecy in Master and Apprentice, which I said I will review soon in a much broader video. But the prophecy goes as follows: he who learns to conquer death will, through his greatest student, live again. In a pretty obtuse way, Vader's armor is a creation of Palpatine. Perhaps Vader is as well. And Vader was his greatest pupil by virtue of being killed by Vader. So why not possess the armor of your former student in the long game to resurrect oneself? In regards to Palpatine's physical form coming back, well, we need to look no further than the world between worlds in regards to getting access to the past or a physical body. Sure, Palpatine could possess somebody, but I'm not sure that's the endgame of Palpatine if this is in fact what is going on with his character. I have said in previous videos that I think the Knights of Ren and Kylo are much more ritualistic than we imagine them to be. We have been learning about incantations and rituals and a lot of new canon material, and I think it would make sense to find out that this group of knights, these Sith Knight relic lore people, are attempting to bring back the Emperor the same way Ezra saved Ahsoka. Pluck them out of time straight into the now. Now, the only way for this to work in my mind is for Sidious to be brought through the portal at the same moment that he releases his energy as he dies on the Death Star 2 after being thrown down the shaft. His dead body would be grabbed by the Knights of Ren and pulled through the portal. He would then have come through time to now, and then he would be reunited with the mask, and then boom, we have Palpatine back. back. I mean, really, perhaps the blue energy was only Palpatine truly releasing himself from his bodily form as he went into Vader's armor. It's like very dark side magic-y, reminds me of the Night Sisters stuff. I wonder if you guys think the same. And I know Star Wars doesn't usually play with time this heavily, but it would be a smart move to incorporate these ideas into the final chapter of the saga, since it seems that so many breadcrumbs have been thrown at us over the past 4 or 5 years concerning resurrecting from death, especially with dark side energies. And remember, this is just my theory based on real content in Star Wars canon. Most likely, my interpretation of what's going to happen is wrong, but it is fun to consider how Palpatine may return. Maybe you have a completely different idea of how he's coming back or his role. For me, I think it makes sense within the larger story's logic for Palpatine to resurrect himself, but Star Wars typically goes in directions we never considered. And no, that isn't subversion. Now, that's basically it for how I think Palpatine will be back. And I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you are new here, please leave a like and subscribe. It lets me know that people are really enjoying the content. So as always, may the Force be with you, and the atatchat is signing off.